Hello, everybody, and welcome. Uh, my name is Mark. I'm going to be talking about magic. I don't have a name for what this hopefully series of videos is going to be. I don't have any production value invested into this thing. I don't have any cool graphics or any cool music or any cool anything. The only hopefully cool thing is me talking about magic. And uh, the idea was born to talk about commander decks and uh, hopefully expand on that a little bit or just talk about commander decks. Whatever it is that people think is interesting, that's what we want to do. So, our first shot at this is going to be one of our local LGS gamers and the deck that he plays, which is called Xyris Wheels. Um, Shout out to Jared for this. Uh, I don't think I'm going to talk about every card, but I'm going to talk about a few of the strategies. You know what? One of the other things that I really hope to do with this is be a little bit weird and goofy and entertaining. So I'm going to try to be a lot of things, informational, uh, hopefully not too opinionated, but also hopefully entertaining and fun, and maybe create some meme-worthy moments for people. So, diving into this thing, Xyris Wheels. Let's first talk about the Xyris part of the name of the deck, and that is the commander, Xyris the Writhing Storm. It's a 3/5 Snake Leviathan with flying. It costs 2 of any, green, blue, red. Whenever an opponent draws a card, except the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, create a 1/1 green snake creature token. How do we make our opponents draw cards, you ask? Let's get to that. Let's read the second half of the card. Whenever Xyris the Writhing Storm deals combat damage to a player, you and that player each draw that many cards. So, I mean, at a baseline, if this thing hits, you're going to make 3 snakes, and you and one of your randomly selected opponents is going to also draw 3 cards. Now let's talk about the wheels part. So in Magic, the concept of a wheel effect is discard the hand, draw 7 cards. Not all of the effects in here are literally wheels, but some of them have the name wheel in it even. So again, we're not going to talk about every single card, but we'll talk about quite a few of them, or we'll talk about part of the plan. So card like Jace's Archivist, 2/2 creature, pay a blue, tap it. Each player discards his or her hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way. Right off the bat, that's a big one. That could be 3, 5, 7, 10, 12, 15 cards. Like, if each of your opponents is drawing 10 cards and you have 3 opponents, you're going to make 30 snakes, which is astronomical and crazy. So, pretty big. Magus of the Wheel. It's a literal shout out to Wheel of Fortune, which is where the wheel word kind of gets its name, with Wheel of Fortune. Magus of the Wheel. 1 in a red, tap, sacrifice it. Each player discards their hand, then draws 7 cards. The idea, going back to Wheel of Fortune, the card itself is so expensive, like financially expensive, that it's not even in this deck. And probably isn't in most people's wheel strategy decks. Whirlpool Warrior comes in. You get to do kind of a pseudo wheel, and then you can sacrifice it, and each player does it. Wheel of Fate. This is a suspend version of Wheel of Fortune, but it says each player discards their hand, draws 7 cards. Winds of Change. 1 red mana. You can do it on turn 1 if you want. I don't know why you would. All players shuffle their hands into their libraries and draw the same number of cards they originally held. Wild. Wheel of Misfortune. Lots of text on this guy. We're going to come back around to him, but let's just put it the way. It says each player who didn't choose the lowest number discards their hand and draws 7 cards. That's the last line of text on that card. Wheel of Misfortune. What does it really do? We'll talk about that later. Wheel and deal. Any number of target opponents each discards their hand and draws 7 cards. And you get to draw a card. Teferi's Puzzle Box. Beginning each player's draw step, they put the cards of in their hand on the bottom of the library and then draw that many cards. So we have all of these wheel effects, right? Those are going to allow Xyris to cause you to make a ton of snakes. Okay? Then we have a whole bunch of cards in the deck that just incidentally allow your opponents to draw extra cards. We've got some obvious ones that everybody always talks and knows about. We've got the classic Howling Mine. Each player draws an additional card on their draw step. We've got Kami the Crescent Moon, a creature that's essentially doing the same thing. And he's showing off his Crescent Moon while he's doing it. Arcane Denial. It's literally a counterspell with you and your opponent draw extra cards stapled onto it. Oh, I missed Windfall. There was Arcane Denial. I missed Windfall, though. Each player discards their hand and draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way. Here, you want your opponents to draw a billion trillion cards? Whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player draws 7 cards, force fruition. That's insane. That's an insane card. Okay. Folio Fancies. Players have no maximum hand size. Well, you got to be able to hang on to the cards you draw. Double X tap. Each player draws X cards. I mean, that's okay. Okay. Jace Beleren. Each player draws a card. Mind's Aglow. Starting with you, pay any amount of mana. Each player draws X cards. That's what Mind's Aglow says. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. Now, we got a lot of other stuff in this deck. You know, we've got some mana dorks here. We've got a life gain thing here. Another mana dork here. I think, you know, and then we have some classic stuff here. Soul Ring, Arcane Signet. Library of Lang has no maximum hand size. How are we winning the game? By just making a million snakes and attacking people with them? Sure, that's one of the ways. We could have this alternate win condition. If you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. Well, I mean, with a card like Consecrated Sphinx, whenever an opponent draws a card, you may draw 2 cards. Yeah, I mean, we're going to get there real fast. Really fast. Niv Mizzet, whenever you draw a card, you get to ping something. Yup, we're going to get there pretty fast. How about if we just want to hurt people with our snakes? Oh, well, Craterhoof Behemoth. Enters the battlefield. Creatures gain +X/+X trample, where X is the number of creatures you control. Yeah, that's huge. Okay. Impact Tremors. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Impact Tremors deals 1 damage to each opponent. Well, if we're making a ton of snakes, that's a pretty quick way to do it. What if we want to make... What if we want to say, hey, I don't think I'm making enough snakes here, man. Well, then we got Adrix and Nev. You're going to make a thing? Why don't you make double the things? Parallel lives. You're making things? Let's make double the things. Why don't we just do it that way? Seems fine. Seems fun. Now, I don't really want to get too deep into talking about the power level of decks. It's a little bit tricky sometimes to really get a sense of those things. But people are going to see a card like Force of Will. And anybody that plays competitively knows that this is a competitive card. And I mean, the price tag suggests that it probably is. Free Counterspell. Pact of Negation. Free Counterspell. Why are we playing cards like this? If we're playing a deck that's not competitive, why are we playing cards like this? Probably so that when we finally do get to the point of having a way to win the game, we can protect it a little bit. Do you need to be playing stuff like this? Absolutely not. Absolutely, you do not need to play Force of Will, and you do not need to play Pact of Negation. But can you? If you finally get to the end? Sure. Sure thing you can. Uh, Now, if I was to say what do I think this deck is, I think this deck is a group hug style deck that can do really big things to get to the end and win a game. That's what I think that the deck is. I think it has a few different ways to get there in the end. It doesn't, but it is pretty reliant on the commander. However, here are some ways that you know that this is kind of a for fun meme deck. Frogify. It's 1 and a blue, enchant creature. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a blue frog with base power and toughness 1/1. There are so many better cards than this to deal with a problem creature. So many. But here we are turning the thing into a frog. How serious are we if we're turning things into frogs? Just a thought. Now, what kind of person, what kind of human being says, I'm going to sacrifice this Mindslaver and I'm going to pick the person who I think is my biggest threat, or maybe they owe me $2 and haven't paid me back. Maybe they haven't showered recently. Like, I'm just not. I just don't like them. I'm going to take control of their turn. That's kind of what that says. That's kind of a mean thing to do. Kind of a hurtful thing to do, right? You're just going to not let me play my turn. You're going to mess me up, right? Yeah. Well, I don't think the pilot is doing it that way. Okay, here's what I think. We have this card, Leyline of Anticipation. It says you can cast spells as though they had flash. So you can cast things as an instant. Well, what do we need to cast as an instant? Let's come back to this Wheel of Misfortune down here. It's a sorcery, so we can't cast it as an instant. It says, let's talk about this real quick. Each player secretly chooses a number, 0 or greater. Then all players reveal those numbers simultaneously and determine the highest and lowest numbers revealed this way. Okay, so everybody's picking a number, highest, lowest. That's what really matters. This spell, Wheel of Misfortune, deals damage equal to the highest number to each player who chose that number. So if you choose 30, and that's the highest number, you're going to take 30 damage. Each player who didn't choose the lowest number discards their hand and draws 7 cards. So if you chose 2, and that was the lowest number, you discard your hand. You don't discard your hand and draw 7 cards. You just don't do anything. Okay? If you pick the highest number, you get hit for that amount of damage. You pick the lowest number, you don't get to do the thing. And, but you also get to do the wheel effect if you pick the highest number. Everybody but the lowest number gets to do that. Now, if we can do that as an instant, and we can take control of somebody's turn, and we cast this on their turn, we have control of the number that they choose. And we could say, I think you'll choose 17 trillion for your number. I bet that's the highest number, and I bet you take that amount of damage. Okay? I mean, that's pretty awesome. Now listen. Frogify, this is a meme. Let's call it what it is. This is a meme-y thing to do, right? But this is kind of just child's play meme stuff. This is low tier, kind of like giggle giggle meme. This with this and this. This is big britches memeing right here is what this is. Okay? This is the type of meme. This is the type of thing you do, and people are kind of wondering how you're able to walk around comfortably because maybe you're carrying a little extra weight or something. That's uh that's a big britches meme right there. Okay. And honestly, you love to see it. So let's get the summary of this thing. Let's pound it out, right? To me, what you're looking at here, this is a fun commander. People are going to do some fun things. You're going to get to maybe do some really, really huge things, but you're very reliant on your commander in order to do it. And to be honest, like if you're killing off all the snakes or you're killing off the commander and stuff, the game's probably, I mean, Pilot's going to be a little bit less incentivized to do some of the fun time stuff, but I tell you what, chances are it's going to be a fun time. Chances are you're going to have a good time. And if you happen to be somebody who knows the pilot of this deck, I think if you haven't already seen the snake tokens that they use, you should definitely check that out because it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. Thank you to everybody who made the investment to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was thought-provoking a little bit. I hope it was enjoyable and there were some you got a little chuckle out of some of the stuff that we did. I want to do more of this, and I want to make it go in the directions that people want it to go. You know, if they want a little bit more serious and a little bit more detailed thought processes on some cards, if they want a little bit more breakdown on some of the cards, happy to do that. But I hope it was a great time, and I hope it's something that you want to see more of in the future. And I'm all for getting some deck submissions that I can make videos about and take a look at. Thank you all for watching. I love you all, and have a beautiful, glorious, wonderful day. Peace.